Cheers, brother. I've been waiting for this one to start drinking. Thanks for coming out, Ben Reeder.
No,
So
this is great.
you're a fucking powerhouse in the insurance industry. You're kind of a young dude, which is an anomaly in this business, right? I mean, you don't get a lot of us.
Young-ish.
Young-ish.
Yeah.
But, you know, you're not 5 years old rolling out of bed going, I hope to be an insurance guy.
Right.
Right?
Nope.
What happened? Like, what the hell? Like, how did you get into this business?
Failed into it, you know.
Tell me.
It wasn't my initial goal in life to be in insurance, but sort of the market conditions dictated after going through some, I had a construction company, real estate, property management, did all that kind of stuff. And when the economy turned and I was looking for something that would produce income, I was like, hey, you know what? I know some people that have been in insurance. I remember growing up with people and their families and parents were in insurance, and I liked, the lives that they led. And I said, you know what, let me give that a try. And the nice thing about insurance, right, is the barrier to entry, like especially on the life insurance side, it's low. It's easy.
Yeah.
All right. So, I mean, you can grab a course, take the test, be a licensed insurance agent in 2 weeks in most
It's almost
states, right?
criminal how
it's
easy
almost
it is.
criminal.
Yeah.
And for better or worse,
Right,
honestly,
right,
for
right.
better or worse, it's easy come, easy go. So I said, oh, let's give this a try. So it was really out of desperation, if nothing else, and in sort of a survival mode. And it wasn't something that I was even looking long term to do. I didn't know anything about renewals or residual income or commissions or contract levels or anything. And it was just like, hey, I need to pay my bills, and this seems like a way that I can do it.
That's really interesting. I think exactly the way I got into the business, and it's not the way that I've heard very many people getting into the business. You might be too young to. You remember the penny saver, the little paper that would show up?
Of course, yeah.
So back when they had the help wanted ads, I saw a help wanted ad that said work 4 days and make $1,000, and I was 19. I was like, this sounds fucking great. Let's go.
Yeah.
And thank God I didn't know it. I went up and interviewed, and I was like super impressed. The next day, he was like, all right, you got the job. I mean, they would have hired anybody that could fog a mirror.
Fog a mirror,
Yep.
right? Yeah.
Yep. And it was going door to door selling health insurance to small business people. And that's how I didn't know any better. Thank God I didn't know. Like you said, for better or for worse, right? You don't even know what you're getting into. And then you find yourself in this spot. Now you've been doing it for a bit, and you've got hundreds of agents that you help, right?
Yep.
How did that? So you went from selling to, I think I can help people do what I do.
Yeah, that's it.
What tripped in your mind to make you do that?
So I think the process is, sort of learning by doing it, and then saying, well, if I can do it, anybody can do it. I mean, anyone. If you can just be coachable, follow a system, and more importantly, go see the goddamn people. And that's the whole thing. I think we've come away from that in a lot of aspects of the business with so much technology and the ability to, when I started in the business, which was, about 11 years ago, which, it's sort of a lifetime in the life cycle of insurance, a lot has changed. There weren't e-apps then. There wasn't, there wasn't
paper.
It was all paper. There was no, Facebook wasn't really a thing. It wasn't, you couldn't distribute insurance in the same way. So being able to literally bloody knuckle pounding on doors in areas that you probably wouldn't want to be in after dark, right?
Yeah.
And that, to me, it was really refreshing. So I said, hey, I can do this. I'm making a little bit of money. And then I sort of learned that, I could get some people contracted and I could help them do that and, make a little bit on them and sort of wash, rinse, and repeat. So again, that wasn't intentional. Now there's so much out there. Oh, recruit and this and that. Everyone wants to recruit and, have 1,000 agents and think they can go live on a beach somewhere. And, ultimately they're doing something else in 6 months. So I think the staying power in the business is, maintaining equity with your agents in personally producing. And then when those agents that you might be talking to about insurance, whether they're existing or you're bringing them into the business, they see that they're following someone that has done what they've done, has been where they've been. It creates
and is still doing it.
Yeah. I still not a ton, but I still personally produce on a on a minimal level, but just to, if nothing else, stay up to date with carrier process. It's one thing reading an agent guide. It's another thing to go through a process, right? And then be able to speak about it to speak about it with personal experience, and not just like you didn't just watch something, So
do you find yourself bringing in new people that have never been in the business, or do you find yourself bringing adding value to people that are already in the business?
75% are people that are already in the business.
Got it.
The new agents that come in, obviously there's a really high failure rate just because of that low barrier to entry. People don't spend 3 years in law school or 4 years in med school and go through a residency and then stop being doctors, right?
Right.
But if you spend $100 to get an insurance license, you can kind of not care about it.
Yeah.
So the people that have that drive and they're self-sufficient, welcome them with open arms. But the people that we mostly work with are disenfranchised agents that may not have had the support, the carrier access, the training, or access to real people that have actually done and sold insurance, which is huge because so many uplines are just recruiting and they've
They haven't sat in the seat.
They've been in the business for 6 months and now they're going to build a team. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
your day looks different now. I mean, you were bloody
Yep.
knuckles.
Yeah.
And so what is it today? Is there something that by the end of the day, if you haven't done, you're annoyed, or what marks a successful day for you? Do you have a routine? What is it?
Yeah. So mostly at this point, it's about relationship building. I mean, insurance is just a relationship business. I always say, like, on both sides of the pen, whether you're selling or whether you're working with your agents, it doesn't matter. It's all about relationships because at the end of the day, clients, they can buy insurance basically anywhere, right? There's an insurance agency on every street corner. They're bombarded on all types of social media, print media, TV, radio. I mean, there's insurances advertised everywhere. Same thing with agents. Agents can get contracts anywhere. There's nothing special about me and, a Mutual Omaha contract they have with me. It's the same paper. It's the same products, right? So at the end of the day, it's about those relationships. So for me, it's about making sure that I don't have any agents that are left feeling neglected or unsatisfied, or if they've reached out for something or they've scheduled time with me. I'm big on schedule. I mean, that's the biggest thing, being a slave to my schedule, because a lot of people feel like, oh, the schedule, I don't want to be locked down to something. But at the end of the day, it actually creates freedom. That discipline creates freedom. It doesn't restrict freedom. So for me, it's scheduling the day. And if I have an agent, they might have worked with me for 10 years. They're like, hey, I got a question about this. I'm like, hey, schedule it. And I use Calendly like nonstop. That way I'm accountable to it, and that way I don't forget. Or if an agent has a question about a product, or they need an illustration, or they're meeting with a client, or they want to pitch something, just schedule it.
Get it in the calendar.
Get it in the calendar, and then we do it. And it's not me thinking about, oh, I got to call Dan. No, it's just there, and it pops up, and then I make the call.
Yeah.
So for me, that's the biggest thing. I'm huge in terms of, white sheeting or to-do lists. Like every day I make a list, and I try to clean that up every single day. Obviously, there's some stuff that, isn't a one-day task, but it frees up a lot of mental space. It doesn't occupy time. I'm not laying in bed like, oh, I got to do this or I got to remember that. Nope. It's on the list, and if you write it down, you don't have to remember it.
Yeah.
If it's on the schedule, you don't have to remember it.
You tackle the easy things or the hard things first?
So I like to do one or two easy things because you get that sense of accomplishment. So if it's something as simple as, a contract change, or, sending a pending requirement to a carrier, or, just some type of small thing like that, I like to get things off the list. And I like to break things down into manageable chunks. So it's not like if the list is, go through carrier training with a new agent, I don't just have that. I'm going to break that down by the 5 or 6 carriers that we have. So this agent might be contracting with. So I can check off, all right, we've done Mutual Omaha training, we've done Foresters training, we've done RNA training, and that way you get a greater sense of accomplishment versus just having some large rock on the schedule that may be harder to chip away at.
Yeah. So
I'm big at, I'm big in terms of trying to get a sense of accomplishment on some smaller items, and then get into the meat of some of maybe more complex
what you're trying to tackle.
tasks. Yeah.
Yeah. If you're kind of a unicorn, but if someone wanted to do what you do, is there a first step? Like, you're going to have to do this to be successful. What's the first step they would take?
I think the biggest thing is, I don't think anybody should try to build a downline, an agency, recruit, whatever you want to say, until they've been in the business successfully for at least 12 months. And I say this all the time, and I know it's easy to say being in the business for a while, but I feel like carriers shouldn't allow downline agents for newly contracted agents. It creates debt. It just creates issues that don't need to be there because of
They're still figuring out the
they're
business.
still figuring out, and what they're going to bring. It shouldn't. I mean, I know that would never change, but in my mind, if I were creating a perfect situation, make money for a year, be successful, or figure out it's not for you, and then you're not dragging someone through the mud with you. Because how often I get agents that come in and they say, "Yeah, I was over here, but my upline left, and I don't know." And they might not even be with a bad organization, but at the end of the day, people follow other people. They don't follow organizations. They follow the people that their mentors, their uplines, the people that they're closest with, whoever brought them into the business. That's who they stay with. In the same way that nobody buys Mutual of Omaha, they buy you.
Yeah,
right?
relationship.
That's it.
Yeah.
So if you don't have the equity to provide, the value to provide to an agent, what are you doing bringing them in? I mean, this is like the only industry in the world where you can literally have no experience and then bring someone else in behind you.
Yeah.
Which really, I mean, the times that it works are, just sort of prove, they're the exception to the rule. It proves how often it doesn't.
Yes. So get in the business, spend 12 months, make
Yeah.
sure you know what the fuck you're doing.
Yeah.
And then
Make
bring
a little-
people
put a
along for the
little money
ride.
in. And here's the thing, too. People, it doesn't cost. It costs money. If you want someone to be successful, you got to go see them. You got to take them out. You got to train them. You need to spend time with them, and that time is either taking away from time where you could be making money, or it's investing in them. In maybe it's traveling to see them. It's flights. It's hotels. It's meals. It's leads. It's whatever it is, and it costs money to do that. So if you're not set yourself, if you're on uneven ground financially, and then you're trying to bring someone else in, it's
Well, and
gonna
the
be
motivation then, the motivation becomes that finance, right? Like your pressure. You got stress,
Exactly.
your pressure.
Exactly.
This guy's got to sell for me, or
Yep.
I ain't paying the bills.
That's right.
So you're kind of bloody knuckling it all over again. You're just helping them do it.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, it's softer. It's softer blood. Because you're like punching them in the face.
It's their blood a little
It's their
bit?
blood a
Yeah.
little bit, not yours on a trailer door, that rusty trailer door. That's the best kind. Though.
I remember that.
That's the best kind.
Pitbull comes to the window.
Pitbull comes sitting on the milk crate, piss stained couch. That's where the money is, though.
Right.
And that's the biggest thing is a lot of agents too getting into the business. Everyone wants these, they want to hunt the elephants and whales, right? And what we do, I mean, we're squirrel and rabbit hunters. 90% of what we do, squirrels and rabbits. And I think it's also important for agents to understand that, they might see a lot of stuff. It's easy to post stuff online, social media, all this, and everyone's making millions of dollars a year, right? Everyone's posing in front of rented cars and Airbnbs that are theirs and all that stuff.
Or not theirs, and they're
Right.
just posing.
That's exactly. Oh, say it's $250 a night, man. Oh, get me a picture.
Yeah,
Oh,
right.
Right. Get out of here. So, but a lot of agents, they're attracted to that, and then what happens? It just creates this sort of smoke and mirror situation where they're bringing agents into a distribution model that's flawed. So. And nobody's making money. Nobody knows anything. It's truly blind leading the blind. So part of the process is making sure that you've got yourself established. And if you want to build, that's great. But don't think that that's somehow going to put money in your pocket, or you're going to
For a while, at least, right?
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, if you have a spread on an agent, and I mean that agent's got to sell a lot of.
You're not going to recoup that.
Right.
For a year, 2 years.
Yeah.
break even. Yeah.
And God forbid that agent leaves, doesn't care about their insurance license, and they get out of the business, and they have a bunch of debt roll up to you. Now what? Now you're faced with a decision too.
Yeah.
So that's why it's so important to make sure you have that solid foundation before you start to build, and then it comes naturally. And you can do it. You can speak from a position of strength and authority rather than like, hey, can you want to come and work with me, man?
Yeah.
Like you're like a
Yeah.
junkie in an
Yeah,
alley,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Trying to recruit.
Well, they can feel the authentic nature, right? When you're saying, you said it earlier, it's relationship. Well,
Yep.
when you go to someone and you're selling or you're peddling, they feel that, and you may get some, right?
Yeah,
You may get a
sure,
few,
sure.
but it doesn't take long to pierce that veil, and then they go, that wasn't really who this guy said he was.
Right.
Yeah. So learn it.
Yep.
How long you been in the business?
About 11 years.
Over a decade. Any regrets?
None, really, to be honest. I mean, I've tripped and fallen on my face. I think the most important thing for agents to understand is it's not a straight line. I mean, there's no success in any independent type of business that's a straight line. So if you're not going to be able to overcome a little bit of adversity and adjust and adapt, it's not the right business for you. Go get a job and climb that corporate ladder and go up through the ranks and, work there for
Get your
35
security
years
if you
and
need
get,
it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I think the biggest thing too is I think I don't really have any regrets at all, because every mistake I've made, I've learned from. Every time I've fallen on my face, every time I've almost thought about doing something else, I remember why I got in and the power of the business. Because I tell everybody, I'm like, listen, if you, me, or anybody else wanted to go out and needed to make 10 grand in the next 5 days, you can do it in insurance. You don't have to wait for someone to come into your car dealership. You don't have to wait for someone to buy solar panels. You don't have to wait for a house to close. You don't have to wait for anything. You could literally go out and cold knock a neighborhood, and guess what? You don't want to do it, but you could do it. And I don't know any other business where you could legally go out and make 10 grand in 5 days if you needed it. A lot of agents don't want to put in the work. They want the reward without the work, and that's just human nature.
But the opportunity's there.
Opportunity is there in this business like nothing else.
Wow, that's awesome. I want to go run through a wall
Want to
with
go?
you right now.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Go out and pound some
Let's go.
doors. Yeah, it's the best way.
If this is the last thing your family ever heard you say, what would it be?
Yeah, that's an interesting one. So I would say, two things. Two things. You got me all sad now thinking about last thing, my family ever heard me say. But I would definitely say, do no wrong and fear no man. And it's always better to win less than lose more, right? I mean, everyone wants to come in and make 30, 40 points on every agent. Everyone wants to come in and write that big application. But at the end of the day, if you can provide value and service and keep that relationship, that's worth more than whatever the dollar price is associated with it. So just do the right thing by people, and that's why you guys are great. That's why I have the relationship with you, because I mean, there's literally nothing that I would change. It's fabulous. So that's transparency, authenticity, all that stuff. You don't have to fear about it. You don't have to think like, oh man, I hope he doesn't figure this part out.
You can sleep at night.
You can sleep.
Yeah,
that's it. Right.
Man, that's gold.
So that's the biggest thing. It's just, I mean, it all kind of boils down to honesty. It's easy, but in insurance, it's too easy to get creative, right? Creative. Like how our comp structure is creative, right? We don't actually show the carrier comp schedules. We've got our own, like stuff like that, right? There's no transparency. And then what you're worried, I hope they don't find out. I hope they don't make that call, right?
Yeah.
So there's nothing better than being able to not fear any relationship you're in, and personally or professionally, right? You never have to worry about it. You don't have to worry about who's, oh boy, here comes the call. He must have found out.
Yeah.
And that, for all my agents, I mean, obviously we all make mistakes, but if there's an honest mistake, and there's an honest mistake, right? Oh, we accidentally put you at a wrong level.
You own up to it,
yep,
and you just go.
And you go, but not like, hey, we told you it's this, but we actually just did this. Yeah.
Gold. Dude, I'm honored to work with you. Thank you for coming.
Likewise.
Cheers.
Thank you for the opportunity. I appreciate it.
Right on, dude.
This has been a blast.
All right, we'll do it again.
Acrylic Financial Incorporated is a registered investment advisor, and the opinions expressed by those on this show are their own and do not reflect the opinions of Acrylic Financial. All statements and opinions expressed are based upon information considered reliable, although it should not be relied upon as such. Any statements or opinions are subject to change without notice. Information presented is for educational purposes only and does not intend to make an offer or solicitation for the sale or purchase of any specific securities, investments, or investment strategies. Investments involve risk and, unless otherwise stated, are not guaranteed. Information expressed does not take into account your specific situation or objectives and is not intended as recommendations appropriate for any individual. Listeners are encouraged to seek advice from a qualified tax, legal, or investment advisor to determine whether any information presented may be suitable for their specific situation. Past performance is not indicative of future performance, and some guests may have been paid a fee to be interviewed for this show.